for a strong approach on inclusiveness and gender sensitivity, the culture of organization, a perspective of Bosch. She's the founder of IMEX Consultant and master practitioner of the Neuro-Linguistic Program, co-transformation coach, advanced life coach. She's pioneered to introduce psychology of Aristotle in Bosch. I would like to invite Ms. Zeenat John.
Thank you so much, Sophia, and thank you so much, Mr. Baveja and everyone at IBC and all the participants here. I know it's very challenging after the lunch, sitting on an online session, but I really appreciate everyone. And can I have a good afternoon from everyone?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, thank you. And can we? Very good afternoon, Anjali. Very good afternoon. Can we have few videos on so that I would know that yes, I'm talking to people who are live here. That would be great. Thank you, Mr. Arun. Thank you, Mr. Ronit.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you, Miss Anjali. Should we start?
Good afternoon.
Very good afternoon. Good afternoon, Ms. Usha. So I'm sharing my screen. Do let me know once this is visible to all of you. Yeah, is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Yes, yes, visible.
Great. So before we start, just a quick question to everyone. If you have little idea about the topic which we are going to discuss.
Yeah, we do have.
Great, lovely. So let me begin then. And anyone has any question during the session also, we can take up the question, and I would want to keep it very interactive, right? Let us not make it a one-side lecture kind of, but we can have throughout the session we can have interaction. If you have any questions, you want to share something which I may not be aware, so let us keep it interactive. Hope everyone agrees to this.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, so that all of us are awake and focused. So this is the flow. Though this 45 minutes, 30 minutes time is too less for a subject like this, but I'll still try my level best to do justice to all the points I have made here. Live meeting, few points to remember. So let us exactly begin with the evolution of this act. I'm sure as all of you are, most of you are from HR background, might be knowing the history of this act, what made this act to be enforced across the country and to the corporate world. So I think 1997 in the state of Rajasthan, there was a lady by the name Bhauri Devi who was working under some government projects, and she was working to safeguard the safety, security of women. And in one such projects, she was trying to stop girl-child marriages. And one such event when she was against this girl-child marriage and she was trying to stop an event, few of the zamindars of then, they tried to stop her and they tried to teach her a lesson by the way of gang raping her. 5 of them gang raped her, and then this case became actually a hue and cry for across the country. There was an NGO by the name Vishakha. They took up this case to the Supreme Court, because when this went to the Sessions Court and the district courts and all, the lower court acquitted those accused, saying that this lady is a very lower caste lady and people of such level of the society cannot even touch, they do not even touch the lower caste people. So gang raping her, the question of gang rape doesn't even arise, and they had acquitted him. And then this NGO, which was working again to safeguard the dignity of women and all that, so they took up this case to the Supreme Court, and then Supreme Court heard the case, and then Supreme Court came out with certain guidelines to be followed. So these guidelines were known as Vishakha guidelines, and then 2013 this case got enacted, this law got enacted, and it was enforced across the country. Since then we have been following, but as all of us know, there are acts, there are laws, but most of us are not even aware the kind of laws we have, the kind of legalities we have for our own behavior and all. And then there was something, and on 2016, if all of you must can recollect, this Me Too movement, right, wherein there were so many names which came up on social media, and then I think everyone started taking it very seriously. So since then, even I have been busy doing this, but me coming from a psychology background, being a psychologist, I always used to think, what makes someone commit such offenses? Why would someone hurt someone? Why would someone degrade another being? So that is how I brought this psychology of harassment to the prevention of sexual harassment sessions. So what makes a person a harasser? What makes a person an accused? So where is the background? Where is the root lie? So I think a lot of responsibility is on the parenting, the kind of upbringing we have, the kind of societies we are brought up in, and our overall environment. So somewhere they are also to be blamed to create such delinquent mentality to hurt someone. So someone who is not happy within, or who is not satisfied, not content, has a lot of pain, would not understand what it is to be at peace. And for them it is okay to hurt others as well, because they themselves are hurt, so they find it okay, it's quite a normal behavior for them. And why a victim remains victim? The major problem now, law is in place, the act is in place, but still why we are not able to stop this crime, stop this offense from a society? Because the victims, they always feel that, oh, I might be wrong, that is why this is happening to me, so I need to do something. They have a very low self-esteem, they do not have the courage, they do not have the confidence to speak up, get up. A lot of fear that society might reject them, and we all of us know, right? We have seen that people do not support if someone goes and go to the family. I have heard many women saying that if we go to the family and ask for support, they would say, no, you leave that place is not good for you, the place is not good for women, so many things. But they would, I mean, it's very difficult to get support for such kind of acts, crimes. What is the psychology of harasser? Hateful mindset, very low self-respect for their own self. So one who can't respect his self, or his or her own self, obviously wouldn't know the importance of respecting others. The unconscious bias. This topic itself is a huge topic. I think I could talk about this topic for 2 to 3 hours altogether. We do not even know what is real and what has been conditioning, social conditioning we are brought up with. So a lot of unconscious bias goes behind this kind of mindset and this kind of actions. So what kind of behavior constitute sexual harassment, and when your or our behavior becomes a harassment for the other person? I would try to keep it gender neutral, because being since last 5 years I have been in the same profession, you may say so, that most of the time being a trainer, since last 5 years, 70% of my work goes on to Posh. So most of the work today I do is on Posh. I am also an external member for some 13-14 companies, and day in and day out we are dealing with cases or awareness programs and all. So I know for the fact that it is not the one specific gender who has been getting harassed. So let us keep it gender neutral and not being biased. So what is sexual harassment? So to understand, to check for our own self whether I am harassing someone unknowingly, so we have to just remember these 4 points, that any of the behavior which is not welcomed by the other person, so we call it as unwelcome behavior. If someone is not welcoming our behavior, for example, shaking hands, keep this corona pandemic aside. Before that, if you go and try to shake hand with someone, you offer your hand to be for the handshake, and then someone is not comfortable, and someone may try to do this or try to avoid shaking hands with you. You go and try to approach someone to give a hug, a warm, nice, friendly hug, but maybe the person is not very comfortable, someone else crossing that proximity. So we need to understand that what kind of behavior is not welcomed by the other person. Your behavior something should be sexual in nature. So suppose a boss comes and tries to pat someone's back like this. It feels good, right? You feel motivated, you feel inspired. But if someone comes and tries to touch you inappropriately and you feel like, what is it? You don't feel comfortable. So that could be considered as sexual harassment. Another point to remember is, I have seen in many cases when there are complaints and we start to investigate, the accused, the respondent against whom the complaint has been filed would say, oh no, my intention was not to hurt the person. I was just friendly. So I'm so sorry, my intention was not wrong. But here we say that more than your intention, the impact of your behavior matters. So now we cannot get away by saying that no, my intention was not wrong, unless and until trust me, unless and until our intention is not wrong, the other person will never get hurt. Also, very important point is it is very subjective in nature. So as I gave you an example of handshake. So maybe there are 10 colleagues in an office and 8 of them are quite okay with shaking hands with each other, coming and giving a warm hug to each other, but maybe 2 of them are not very comfortable. They don't even want to touch, they don't even want someone to come close to them or touch them. So it's very subjective. So 8 people are okay with it doesn't mean that other 2 people should also be comfortable with such behavior. So what all constitute sexual harassment under this law? So sexually colored remark, demanding or requesting for sexual favors, showing pornography, unwelcome physical or physical, verbal or non-verbal conduct which is sexual in nature, and unwelcome advances. So what are these places which could come under workplace? So the name of the act, I would just want to quote it once again. It is Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal of Sexual Harassment at Workplace for Women. So all these words used in the act has a very different and broad definition in the act itself. So this act says this safeguards only women at workplace. And what does it do? It takes care of the preventive measures, it takes care of the prohibition of the behavior, and also if such offense happens, then it also takes care of the redressal part. So let us now understand what do we mean by workplace. Everyone knows the building, which also includes your restroom, your cafeteria, your lift, any and every part of your office, your entire building is considered as workplace. So someone is trying to harass someone, or any kind of such behavior has been performed even at the cafeteria, even at the lobby, your library, and any such things you have in your office. So all those areas would be considered as your workplace. Not only that, if your company has sponsored you for some training programs and conferences, or any other place which is not your office, but you have gone there because your company has sponsored you, so even those places, and something happens there, those places will also be considered as workplace. Any place visited by employee in the course of employment. If you have gone outstation, you are staying in a guest room in a hotel, you are in the other office, you are in your client's place, your customer's place, your vendor's place, anywhere you have gone in the course of your employment, all those places would be considered as workplace. Transportation provided by the employer for undertaking journeys, even your Ola, Uber, cabs, any transportation, bus, all those things will also be considered as workplace. Organization sponsored events, it could be a picnic, it could be parties, late night dinners, holiday events. There also, if someone tries to behave badly, behave wrongly with you, you can come back and always file a complaint in your office. Work locations with independent contractors, visitors, all these areas would be considered as workplace. Any questions till now? Am I audible?
Yes.
Great. So if there are no questions, let's move on.
Yes, yeah.
Great. So, and then who are employees? Because employees are covered under this act at the workplace, and act says women employees, but I have seen in my experience most of the organizations have kept it as gender neutral. So they take care of the sexual harassment irrespective of gender. So who are those employees? Employees who are on payroll, contractors, clients who visit your place, customers who come to your office, interview candidates, they have not even been confirmed yet, they have come to your place because you have called them for interviews, or anyone who walks into your office, anyone, even there is a visitor, you have not called, there is no work related visit, but someone in your premises getting harassed, you as an organization have to protect them in terms of sexual harassment. So we have understood what sexual harassment is. Let us also understand what are the forms of sexual harassment. Physical, of course, you want to come close to a person, go close to a person, as I gave an example, touching inappropriately. Non-verbal, so you try to whistle, you try to stare at someone which makes the person uncomfortable. Verbal, so you use comments which is not very comfortable for the other person. So these are three broad forms of sexual harassment. Let us understand them in a little more detail with few examples. So verbal, referring to an adult as in hunk, doll, babe, honey, sweetheart, sexy. So in one such event, while I was conducting this awareness program, one of the corporate office, so a person gets up and says, but sweetheart is a very professional language, professional word. So how can you say this could constitute to sexual harassment? And my answer was that I have not seen any such dictionary wherein it is mentioned that sweetheart is a professional word. So let us not try to defend ourselves while we actually commit this and make someone very uncomfortable. So let us not come with excuses. Let us just understand that this is very, very it is very subjective. 10 of your friends might not have any problem with you calling them babe or honey or sweetheart or darling or something like that, but one person may get offended with these words. So as soon as you understand that the person is not comfortable, instead of giving justification, I think we must say sorry and never repeat this. Whistling at someone, catcalling, making kissing sound, howling, there are 100 ways. If the person is really of that mindset, the person would find 100 reasons to make someone uncomfortable, 100 ways to make someone uncomfortable. Making sexual comments about a person's body, making sexual comments, turning work discussions to sexual topics. This also is a very common problem mostly girls face in an office environment. So a general discussion, somehow it gets into something which makes others very uncomfortable. Personal questions about social or sexual life. So nowadays, once this act got enacted and reinforced across location and made compulsory, mandatory for the companies, so there are certain do's and don'ts even for the recruitment managers while they conduct interviews. So during interviews also there are certain questions now we are not supposed to ask. So we cannot ask about their personal life, whether they are married, not married, whether they are planning to get married, whether they are planning to have their family. So there are few questions which we are as recruitment managers not supposed to ask. Making sexual comments about a person's clothing, anatomy or looks. So here also, while as a consultant, while I go to the corporate and try and read their policy and understand other policies and all, their overall culture of the organization, we also try and suggest them to have dress code policy in the organization. The next point is repeatedly asking out person who is not interested. So here all thanks to our Bollywood movies, which says that आपके नाम में ही हाँ है, right? So unless and until you persuade a girl or a lady, the lady would not give in to your request. So that is not the case now. It only looks good in the movies. But if someone says no once, please consider that no as no, and do not get influenced by the Bollywood movies. Telling lies or spreading rumors about a person's personal sex life. This also depends a lot about the company's culture. So how much do we tolerate in an office? Do we tolerate gossiping, rumor, etc.? SMSs, constant posting, messaging, trolling a person on social media and other networking platforms. So there was another example of a case wherein a lady comes and says, it was not a complaint, but the lady wanted to understand what do I do if this happens. So it seems one of her senior colleague used to send her messages late at night, like 10, 11, 12 kinds, and asking about the personal questions like, had your food, are you okay, I mean, are you going to sleep, all personal questions, nothing to do with official work. And this lady then started avoiding those questions. On that, this senior executive used to tell her that I saw you online till 12 at night, but you did not respond to my messages. So trolling someone, stalking someone can also constitute to the sexual harassment. What could be non-verbal form of sexual harassment? Looking at a person up and down, this staring at someone. You can't even have an evidence that someone is making you so uncomfortable. But yes, the impact is really huge. Blocking a person's path, following the person, gifting a person which can make a person very offended. So again, like dress code policy, we always suggest, there are companies who have gifting policies. If not, then we also suggest that every company should have a gifting policy as well. Displaying sexually suggestive visuals. Very recent case, during this lockdown, during this work from home, there was a complaint wherein this lady says, our boss, he calls for video meetings many a times in a week, and in one such video meetings, the background of that person had an image, a picture of a half nude lady, right, and which used to make all the members in the meeting very uncomfortable to keep their videos on and have that person's video on. So there are ways, as I said, if someone is of that mentality, they have hundreds of ways to make someone uncomfortable. Making sexual gestures with hands or through body movements, making facial expressions such as winking, throwing kisses, licking lips and all that. Any questions still here? Great. Let's move on. Now, what are the types of sexual harassment? I think you all must be knowing about this too. Quid pro quo and creating hostile environment. So the example of quid pro quo is this for that. So you do this to me, you do this to me, you come with me on dinner parties, on weekend picnics and all that, and I'll make sure that you get a promotion this year. Or the retaliation. So if you do not give in to my request, sexual advances or sexual requests, I would see how you work here. So either a retaliation or asking for sexual favors. Hostile environment. So one such case to explain this point. So there were those ladies of an organization. They came and approached the committee who takes care of the sexual harassment cases. So they said that there are these boys of a sales team. So once they are back in office, they share a lot of dirty jokes, non-veg jokes, and they also use their mobiles to show images or videos to each other. They do not involve others, but two, three colleagues, they use their own phones, but the way they talk and discuss things, use kind of language they use makes the environment hostile for others to work peacefully. So this is an example of creating hostile environment. And then when the committee approached, the HR approached those guys, they said, we did not harm anyone, it was our own personal conversation. So we must understand that while we are at workplace, we must know that we are at the workplace only for work purpose, not for such time pass things, and that too creating this uncomfortable environment for others. Now, when you feel uncomfortable, so in all my sessions, I love to ask these questions, that what are the fundamental rights we as Indian citizens have got through our constitution. And trust me, this was our 6th standard civics course study material, but we have forgotten about our own rights. And even if we know our rights, we have not been taught. As I was talking about the society, the upbringing, the parenting, we have not been taught to fight for our rights. So even we are aware of our rights, we hardly have dare to fight for our rights. So there are certain fundamental rights that everyone in India is free to live with respect, dignity, follow your religion, follow your passion, the education, whatever you want to follow, you have all the rights to do so. And then there are certain legal rights. So when we do not even are aware of our fundamental rights, or forgotten about our fundamental rights, knowing about legal right is, all of us know our knowledge base on the legalities, the law aspects. Duties. What are our duties? So this law, the courts, the lawyers, the policy would come later, but we have to make our own self aware of the laws, the rights, remain alert and be responsible for your own self and for the surrounding you are in. Responsible for your own self, for your organization, for your family, for your society, and for your country at large. So what are the preventive measures? So two types, one is personal and one is legal. So preventive measures, the first thing is speak up. Many of us, I would say 80 of us, find it very difficult to speak up for something which we do not like. Be confident that if someone has made you uncomfortable, it is not your fault. That person who has made you uncomfortable or who is hurting you, harassing you, is responsible. So be confident to raise your voice. Know your boundaries. Unless and until we allow someone to cross the boundaries, we do not make our own boundaries, then also many a times we fall into such situations. So we must always know where the boundary is, for how much we allow people to come close to that boundary. Define who you are. What can you tolerate, what is not tolerated, what you welcome, what you do not welcome. That strong personality which talks for you, right? That has to be created. Say no, another very, very, very difficult thing for us to do. It is very difficult to say no to someone. We might be suffering inside, we might be cursing the person within, but we will not have the courage to get up and say no. Communicate assertively. If you do not like something, whether it is your boss, your colleague, anyone for that matter, you have to be very assertively, clearly communicating it to the others, so that other person would also know that okay, this is not welcomed or this is not liked by the person. Unless and until you communicate and you tell it clearly to the other person, how would you expect the person to understand what is making you uncomfortable? So the first thing is that letting the person know that I do not like this, please stop this, or please do not repeat this, right? Any questions till now? No questions. So what are the legal measures? So in an organization, it is mandated by the law. Each organization who has more than 10 employees, they must have a anti-sexual harassment policy in place. Irrespective of the gender of those 10 people. So many a times I have heard people saying that, oh no, we have only male employees, so we do not need this policy. Your employees are male, but your customers, your clients, your contractors, your vendors may be of other gender, right? So does your men in the organization know about the policy, know about the do's and don'ts, know about the consequences of not following the policy? So because of that, irrespective of the gender of those 10 people, you must have a policy in place. Once you have the policy in place, create awareness sessions for all the employees. Your staff employees, even if they are not on your payroll, your staff employees, your third party contractors, everyone who is working at your premises under your name have to be aware of this policy. Constitute an internal committee. So in an organization, wherever you have more than 10 employees, a committee has to be created, and there are certain members who are known as committee members, and they take care of the prevention, prohibition and redressal of this act. So these are the three must thing for all organizations. Why is IC or the internal committee constituted? What is the purpose? As I discussed, prevention redressal forum for sexual harassment at workplace. So they are called as internal committee for everywhere where we have more than 10 employees, and for less than 10 employees there is a local committee present in all the district. So if you have less than 10 employees and unfortunately any such thing happens, you have to approach the local committee which is at the district level. Internal committee is mandatory for organizations with 10 or more employees for each office and branch. It's not like that you have 10 offices in Mumbai and you have in Maharashtra or across the country you have 20 offices and only one committee at this center or at the head office which is taking care of all the branches. Less than 10 members seek the support of local committee. How do we make a complaint? So what is the process? So few things to remember that once the incident happens, as a complainant you have 3 months time to file a written complaint. It has to be in writing. If the person, the victim or the complainant is not physically or mentally capable of filing a complaint, a written complaint, then his or her colleagues, friends, family members can also file a written complaint on the complainant's behalf. So what happens when a complaint is filed? So the investigation would start. Investigation should also get over within 90 days, within 3 months. So what are the process? Once the application is filed, the complaint is filed, so the committee, which is like a court, a lower court, a session court, a civil court as we have in each district, so they have equal rights and responsibilities as a civil court. So they start working on the investigation, and then they first ask the complainant, if case to case basis, if it is not a very major or a very severe case, then they always offer a conciliation process. So by taking an understanding or taking an apology letter by the respondent who has committed the so-called sexual harassment, and if the case can be closed, because many a times, as I was saying, the person might not be aware that this may go that serious. So that has been first suggested. If conciliation happens, fine. If not, then the entire investigation for 3 months starts. Once the person is found guilty, then there are punishments. And during the investigation, if the complainant feels uncomfortable staying in the office and seeing the person, the respondent, every day, then there are provisions of giving the complainant interim relief. So the complainant may get a 3 months leave till the time the investigation is on, or maybe transfer to some other branch. Something of those sorts can be given as interim relief. Certain timelines to remember. So a complaint has to be submitted within 3 months of the last incident, if the incident has been happening quite often. So from the last incident till 90 days time, a complainant would have to file a written complaint. Once the complaint is filed, it comes to the committee. Then committee sends the copy of the complaint to the respondent, to the accused. We do not use these words as victim and accused till the time the entire investigation is done and whether the person is found guilty or not guilty. So we call them as complainant who files the complaint, and against whom the complaint is filed is called as respondent. So once the complaint is received by the committee, they send a notice to the respondent, and the respondent has to reply to the copy within 7 to 10 days. Completion of inquiry should be done in 90 days. Then once the inquiry is done, the investigation is over, then a report has to be submitted to the internal committee if it is in case of internal committee exists in the organization, or to the local committee and to the employer within 10 days of completion of such investigation. So once the employer, in our case we are referring to the corporate, the workplace harassment at this moment. So once the inquiry report is filed and the recommendations are given to the employer by the committee, so the implementation of such recommendation should happen within 60 days of receiving the recommendation by the committee. Then there is again a provision of filing an appeal. So by any chance, any of the parties, whether complainant or respondent, not happy with the recommendations, then they can also file an appeal in higher courts within 90 days of recommendations. So we are done with this session. If you have any questions, I would love to take it up. And I thank you for your time and your patience to hear me out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Zina Jahan, for such an informative session.
My pleasure.
I would like to call upon Mr. Babeja to take it further.
Yeah, thank you. There was,
Ms. Jahan, sorry to interrupt. We have one question, that is structure of IC.
Okay. Okay. So law says a committee should have 4 people. One is a presiding officer, 2 members, and 1 an external member. And we also have to make note that 50% members should be female members. But the practice is, generally I have seen, keeping the size of the organization in mind, we keep more numbers and at least 5 members in the committee. So by any chance during the investigation, if there is a polling or voting, then it should not get tied. So the general practice is to have minimum 5 members in the committee. And then again to choose those 4 members from 4 members internally. So there are certain characteristics we try to look at. So someone who is very senior in the organization, and if you have someone who comes with a legal background, someone who is really passionate about this subject, someone who people look up to, and there are certain other characteristics we note while we choose those 4 members internally. And an external member should be from an NGO or someone who must be working on this cause. Yeah. Hope I answered this question.
Yeah, I think yes. So over to you, Sophie. Thank you.
yeah, there is another question which is raised by Mr. Pandey.
Yes, sir.
Something may be highlighted on digital bullying on the social media.
So as I said, since last 2 years, we have been receiving a lot of complaint during work from home. So one example, digital bullying, whether I would call it as digital bullying, but calling your people, calling your team members on a video call unnecessarily, right? That is been creating a lot of issues, specifically to women employees, that while they are working from home, there are 100 things they are managing in a household, and unless and until it is a must, you should not be forcing them for video calls. Second is, while you are on video call as a manager or as a leader, you should make sure that you are dressed well. Your the background and the surrounding wherever you are visible should be conducive for others who are part of your meeting. As I give an example that the background image was very disturbing for others. We have also received complaint wherein this lady say that the boss is lying on his bed. He has not even got up, he has not even dressed well, and then he is making video calls and trying to talk to her female colleagues. So these are actually the complaints we have received. Hope I
Thank
answered
you.
your question, Mr. Pandey.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
So I'm really very, myself got educated from Zeenat ma'am's session. It's the first time I'm hearing her. She's quite clear what she was talking about. She's quite clear what she wanted to convey. And I really wonder, such a elaborate subject which otherwise takes about 3 to 5 days to understand in depth, she has made such a beautiful capsule which could be easily understood in a very simple and normal terms for all of us who are from the non-legal background. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
I'm
but
glad that I could finish on time. That is an
Yeah,
achievement.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
While on this subject, I would like to add two of incidences which will be a little more giving clarity to the subject. My daughter stays in Singapore. When my daughter and my son-in-law, they wanted to